Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again for another Film Fanatic show. It is about Friday at 9:46. Pretty cold November day. We are, pretty much in the thick of, well, in the cusp of going into the winter season here. So it's pretty chilly, but yeah, Halloween has passed. So it's been great. Again, I always watch horror movies, and Halloween is kind of a year-round state of mind for me. I don't really do anything different too much around Halloween. I It's my favorite holiday, and Halloween and Christmas are my favorite two holidays. I really love Thanksgiving. I've always been a person who really gets into the holidays, but around definitely Halloween, obviously, and Christmas, Thanksgiving, the food thing is always probably the biggest component of why I love those holidays so much, especially Thanksgiving. But so the only thing I did a little bit different, or a little bit differently, I guess, around the Halloween season is I I started watching a few extra horror films. I've been kind of in this place or realm of where I've been slowly getting through all of the movies that I bought at the big sales that I went to about a month ago, and when Halloween was getting closer and closer, and a lot of the movies I bought at those sales were not horror movies. So when I was going along, and doing reviews for a lot of these movies, when Halloween was approaching, I was just my mood for watching those films that were the non horror films wasn't really there. I wasn't really into watching them. I kept wanting to keep watching horror films. So and now that it's past, Halloween is over. I'm getting to these movies now because most of these movies coming up here in these next few shows are are not horror films. There's like one. There's a remake, the remake for Black Christmas, which I haven't seen. The original Black Christmas is just a masterpiece as far as the horror exploitation world. So what I'm gonna do, I think, when I watch that, the remake, is I'm gonna watch when I get to it, which will be pretty soon, I imagine. I'm gonna watch both movies together. I'm gonna watch the original, and then I'm gonna watch the remake, which came out I think a few years ago. Haven't seen it. Heard a lot of mixed things about it, mostly that it wasn't very good. I also heard it was actually very good from a couple of reliable sources. So we'll see, and I'm excited to check it out. And I like the idea of watching, both together to kind of have the 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 height of the original and the one of the most important movies ever to come about in the horror exploitation world, and especially the slasher world. To have that still kind of ruminating in my head and in my mind, and to then go forth and watch this remake to see, to kind of compare and contrast, which will be fun. I did a show with one of the movies I bought, which was also a horror movie called Doctor Sleep, which was the sequel to The Shining. And though I had seen that movie before, and I've only seen it once, but I really liked it. But what I wanted to do for the show, for reviewing Doctor Sleep, what I decided to do was watch The Shining first, and then watch Doctor Sleep, because yes, I am that much of a geek. So I thought that would be a cool thing, and it was great. It was really awesome. I got through both movies. I watched them. I think it was on like a yeah. I watched them on a Saturday night. I had been gone all day, and I watched them on a Saturday night, and it was a really crappy day. The weather was terrible. It was really rainy and cold and windy. So I got Chinese takeout and sat my ass on the couch, ate some good food, and then started out with The Shining, which is one of my favorite movie of Kubrick's career, and pretty much pound for pound my favorite horror film of all time. Started with that, and then right into Doctor Sleep, and it was awesome. It was, took up a lot of time, but I wasn't going anywhere, and I was really looking forward to it. It was probably about just about just shy of 5 hours altogether of sitting and watching movies, and but it was fantastic. So that's how I did that show on Doctor Sleep, because I have reviewed and talked a lot about The Shining in the past, and there's videos for those things. So I thought it was cool. It made for a really kind of cohesive tie-in when I went to go when it was time for Doctor Sleep. It was, I don't know, it made it for an even more enjoyable experience, because it was there there those films are, with Doctor Sleep being such a mammoth kind of undertaking to try to create a sequel to such a masterpiece. Talk about a daunting task, but it was kind of flawless and really great and original. And while it paid homage to the original and the story by Stephen King, but it also gave you something really, really new and fresh. And that's, to me, are the kind of the key ingredients for like a sequel. With the Black Christmas thing, as far as I know, it's not a remake or a prequel. It's like a it's not a sequel or a prequel. It's just a pure kind of modernized version of it. So it'll be interesting to see. So we'll see what happens. So today's film is on another movie that I bought. I didn't buy a whole lot of Blu-rays at Opera House. I did get probably about five or six, probably about five. Mostly DVDs. They're very good copies, really good prices. Um, I did a bunch of shows on them. The most one show I did had, well, it was actually a series of shows. It was like 12 shows I did, and it was on this horror combo pack that had 15 movies on it. And there was four of those films I had seen before, and I actually already owned, but the rest of them I hadn't seen. So that was really ambitious, and that was all DVD. But this is one of the Blu-rays I got, and uh, this is a really fucking awesome movie, and that is it's one of the Mission Impossible movies, Rogue Nation. I you know I like the Mission Impossible movies. I consider myself, like, when it comes to big franchises, franchises, because I've talked a lot about my horror franchises that I love deeply. But as far outside of that, um, there's certain franchises I do like, and maybe I'm more of a casual fan. One franchise I'm a huge fan of, and I'm gonna eventually get. I'm starting to acquire them now. I have a pretty decent amount of them. There's still a ways to go, but I'm a huge James Bond fan. I'm a real big fan. I used to go back in the day when I used to go to the movies all the time. I used to go see with a friend at the time who was also way into the James Bond movies. We used to always go to every movie that would come out, and that was during the time when Pierce Bronson was James Bond. So it was quite a few years ago. But I've always been a huge fan of those movies, especially with the last three or four films with Daniel Craig. He's probably my favorite James Bond, but I love all of the movies pretty much through and through. And I've been acquiring more and more of those movies on Blu-ray, which has been really cool. Um, and I think it's pretty good. There's maybe one or two maybe with Pierce Bronson that's not so good, but for the most part they're all really good. There's one with Daniel Craig, Quantum of Solace, that is a little bit flat. But and as far as Mission Impossible movies, like I've seen most of them really, and for some reason I don't really. I own a couple of them. I don't really have any of them on Blu-ray. I might have one other movie on Blu-ray that I think of. I have them on. I have a couple of them on of DVD. But when I think about my relationship to Mission Impossible, there's a ton of movies in the franchise. I I always like them. I always really, really am impressed with them. But I often don't think of it in the same light of like James Bond as far as where I kind of think sometimes with Mission Impossible, it's more like of a casual fan, whereas James Bond, the James Bond series, I'm like really into it and I really, really love it. But I don't know, like after watching, I started watching this, pretty much finished it, and I've seen this before, quite a few years ago. I was watching this last night, and I was like, wow, like this movie is kick ass. Like it's got so much suspense. The action sequences are just incredible. Tom Cruise is kind of a maniac. You know, and I actually have. I'm actually a big Tom Cruise fan. I think there's he's got a huge career, obviously, and there's so many movies that he's done over the years, and there's a few that are, maybe not so great, but there's also probably more good than bad films that he's been in, and he when it comes to action movies, the thing that's so awesome is that he's kind of a madman. Like he does all of his own stunts. He literally puts himself like in serious danger to make these films, and you know they're great. Like they really are. And the other thing I really like and it kind of admire about Tom Cruise is he's a real big, outspoken person about the theater going experience, the art or the kind of that ritualistic aspect of why we go to the theater, and why in a lot of ways it's really important for us. I think it's a real culturally. I think it's a really important thing that should be kind of cherished and not forgotten and indulged in. And he's a real big proponent of that, of having going to that dark theater with friends or just complete strangers, sitting in that dark room, having that total uh, immersive experience for those few hours, and really losing yourself to what you're seeing on the big screen. And every time I've seen him be interviewed about those kinds of things, he's always talking about films that he saw when he was a kid. A lot of times I've seen him talk about when, I think it was when he was a kid, he had gone, I think his dad had gone, Tom Cruise's dad had taken him when he was a little kid to go see 2001: A Space Odyssey. And as far as I can remember, it was his first movie that he had ever seen, ever. And first time being in a movie theater. And he always talks about how kind of a transcending experience that was, and he's always held on to it. And that was kind of the movie or the key thing that, like, determined his fate, if you will. Like he was like, okay, I'm gonna figure out how to be part of this magic. And even to this day, he is very outspoken about keeping that experience alive and well for people and for the public, and looking at it as a cultural, the cultural significance of that, and very important. He's also up there with Denis Villeneuve, who's one of my favorite directors, and also Christopher Nolan. The three of those guys are they're big time, especially Tom Cruise, but all three of those guys are big time Hollywood directors, and they are they command a lot of money and respect, but they're very, very outspoken about their whole situation in regards to how we view movies, and the streaming situation that we're at now, and just this kind of the sad state of affairs in a lot of ways that we are kind of at now as far as the entertainment industry. It's a really weird and crazy time. I saw just today, for instance, and I heard about it from a friend a while ago, that there was going to be a remake to Stephen King's Salem's Lot. I heard from my friend Emmett Layler, who is a huge King fan, and he's also way into horror movies. He had told me that there was going to be a remake, a modern adaptation of Salem's Lot, and I can't remember who he said the director was, but it sounded really interesting and possibly cool. I love the original. I don't really like the other things that have come out since then. There's been a series, a TV series, and a couple other things. I do love the Toby Hooper original. I think it's an amazing movie, even though that was kind of a that I believe that was a TV movie, but it's still awesome. It's kind of actually one of my favorite vampire movies. So I was excited at the prospect of what they could do with it, and that it was going to be a regular theatrical, a regular full full length movie adaptation or a remake. And then I just saw today that I guess the movie has been shot and it's been kind of more or less done for a little while. And I guess the company that was releasing it has decided not to put it in theaters, and it's going to be strictly streaming. I saw that today, and I'm like, Jesus Christ! Like, what a weird time we live in. But anyway, getting back to Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, I got this on Blu-ray, and it is pretty incredible, kind of breathtaking. Of course, this is a Mission Impossible movie, so the production value is like absolutely through the roof. The stunt sequences are pretty breathtaking, especially the opening sequence where Ethan Hunt, played by Tom Cruise, is essentially like he is on this plane. He's on the wing of this plane. He's hanging on to the side of this plane, and you see it take off, and it's wild. It looks like it's all done in one take, and from what I believe, that's actually him hanging on this plane while it's taking off. Completely insane, just breathtaking, and the action sequences are great. The Simon Pegg, of course, returns in this film. Uh, it's a really awesome. Vig Rhymes, of course, another returning character. Great villain in this movie too. Really, really great villain. A lot of suspense. I just about finished this movie. I saw this again a few years back when it came out, and I remember liking it. But I forgot pretty much most of it. Really, really, really impressive on Blu-ray. It's pretty spectacular. I got this at the big sale at Opera House Video for super cheap. Um, super psyched I got this. It's pretty intense. Jeremy Renner's in it from, of course, the Avenger movies. Hawkeye, he's really fantastic in it. The villain is really great. It's a really great story. Very suspenseful. Great. Like I said, the action is pretty wild, to say the least. There's this whole like kind of underwater sequence, which I haven't really seen in a Mission Impossible movie before. That is pretty spectacular. Uh, the technology used in it is pretty mind blowing. And this movie will definitely give, if you have a pretty good or a really great man cave or sound system at home, this movie will give it a serious workout. I recently got a newer system, and it basically acts like a Bose system. I got this one speaker. It's basically I only own, I still have my other player, and I use that more of a as a to listen to music. But the problem I was having, and I have this one DVD player. It's a Blu-ray player. The problem I was having with it was it wasn't it was rejecting a lot of discs, and I've had it for about six or 7 years. I've had it for a long time. And what happened was when I watch Blu-rays on it, it's pretty good. But a lot of times when I put in a Blu-ray, it will it won't take, it won't register. So you have to sit there and kind of dick around, and then it will eventually play. And so it's a little bit of a pain in the butt, but it doesn't. It usually always plays Blu-rays, newer ones that I buy, and then older ones. But when it comes to DVDs, it barely plays any. I can barely play any DVDs on it anymore. And I own a shit ton of DVDs, and I still do buy them. I try to make the focus on my habits around Blu-rays, but I still buy DVDs, and I bought a ton for at these two sales that I went to, or this one big sale at Opera House. And so I couldn't use it. I couldn't really watch a lot of those movies. And then and this thing had been this player had been acting this way for a while. So I ended up getting a new player, but this new player, because of all the upgrades and technology, it would not be. It's not compatible with my stereo system that I have for it. So I had to get this other speaker, uh, which I was reluctant about because I really like the system I have here. And so I had to get this other speaker, and it's basically one big speaker with a subwoofer. And I wasn't super excited about it when I first got it, but now I really, actually, really love it. And what it is it's like this omni. It's all one speaker, but it's like kind of omnidirectional. So you're getting this. It's pretty strange and wild how it works, but you're getting this kind of filtered or omnidirectional kind of release of the sound through the speaker. So you feel like it's really immersive and it's a really awesome speaker. When I first got it and I was listening or watching one or two movies on it, I was like, it's pretty good. And then I was thinking, well, maybe this isn't as good as the system. But now I actually really love it. And I hadn't really watched any big action movies on it yet, on Blu-ray. And this was like one of the first ones, and I'm really, really impressed with it. So I'm pretty happy with it. So the system that I have, the speakers that still work, and my system that still works, I use that now as just a stereo. So it's pretty cool. It's actually better now than it's been. But yeah, Mission Impossible. This came out in 2015. It's hard to believe. There's a new one. There's two new ones coming out. There's one that came out. I think it's called The Day of the Reckoning, or Reckoning Day, I think it's called, and it's going to be two parts. The first one came out this summer, which I haven't seen. It came out in July, I believe. It was the latest installment of Mission Impossible. This came out 2015. I didn't realize how old this movie is already, but kick ass. I mean, really, really good. I have another Mission Impossible movie too that I bought. It's on DVD, and I'm looking forward to watching that. But really, really good. Super killer action. Really entertaining. Very, very cool. So, very, very cool movie. I highly recommend. Definitely, I've seen pretty much every Mission Impossible movie. It's been a while since I've seen a few of them. There's a lot in the franchise, but I've always really liked them. And this movie, after watching it, reminded me of like, wow, I really need to check these movies out again. And this is an awesome movie. This is definitely one of the best in the franchise. So this is Jason Dean. So thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.